Hello, my name is Bob Doman. I'm the founder and director of the National Association for Child Development. This little video is part of a series we're doing on education. We're doing a little discussion looking at education, looking at factors affecting education, and hopefully getting a dialogue going relative to how we can improve what's happening with our children. In this little piece, I'd like to talk about neurodevelopment. And essentially what that means is how your brain develops is a reflection of the stimulation and opportunities that your brain receives. And as I stated in a previous video, preschool years are particularly important and very significant in terms of how the brain starts developing and how we develop the skills that permit the child to learn and to think, communicate, which are pretty important. You know, essentially, we're accidents. Most all of us are accidents. Some lucky accidents, some not such lucky accidents, because most of our parents didn't have a clue in terms of what specifically we needed to help us develop. The educational process doesn't address that, all right? And unfortunately today, very few parents are terribly involved, and therefore our kids are not doing well. Look at yourself. You know, most of you are adults. Most of you have completed at least 12 years of education. You know, and I would ask you the question, do you know how you learn? Do you know what your strengths are? Do you know what your weaknesses are? Do you know if you have any specific inefficiencies? Most are going to answer, gee, I don't really know. Now, think about that for a moment. You've gone through 12 plus years of education. We don't even want to count the days, count the hours dedicated to it, without ever anyone having worked with you enough to determine what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your inefficiencies are, and more importantly, giving you the input to strengthen all of the pieces to make you a strong, effective, efficient learner. You know, research today is pretty clear that if we're going to judge how well a child's going to do, what is more important than their intelligence is actually their ability to process information. Now, I don't know that we can do a lot about your innate intelligence. Actually, I don't think for the most part we have to worry too much about people's innate intelligence. I think probably for the vast majority of people, it's more than adequate to do what we need to do. All right, but what we can affect, easily affect, is how we process information, think, and learn. All right, those are easy things to strengthen, easy things to develop if we do it. All right, and today it's not being done. It used to be done better simply because there was more one-on-one involvement of parents with their kids. But today, it's not being done. Now, we're talking about education not doing what it should be doing. You know, well, you know what? We need to make students better. We need to make them, if you will, smarter. And we can do that. You know, we keep thinking, oh, well, the solution is more teachers, smaller classrooms, different curriculum. You know what? Not really. You know, for example, I could see a family from New York, 3 children. One gets A's, one gets C's, one gets F's. A family moves to Atlanta, different schools, different curriculum, and guess what? One kid gets A's, one gets C's, and the other one gets F's. And they can move all over the country, go to different schools. And pretty much those kids are going to be A, C, and F students unless something is done to change the student, to improve their neurodevelopmental function, to improve their ability to process information, develop short-term memory, to work on their working memory, to work on developing their executive cognitive function. Those things are pretty darn easy actually to do if you in fact address them and do it. Education takes us as we walk in the door and sadly generally determines what our potential is based on that initial perception. Sadly, many are perceived as being less than okay, typical. And then we do a thorough workup on them for the purpose of labeling them and categorizing them. Generally not for addressing their inefficiencies, fixing their problems, all right, but for categorizing them and, if you will, then limiting them. That need not be. You know, in terms of children and brains, the key word is a word that's been known since the late 1800s that the educational system hasn't in fact appreciated yet, and the word is plasticity, neuroplasticity. And that means we can affect the development and function of the brain by what we put into it and how we use it. All right. And a key to developing education is to develop the students, to produce brains that work well, that are efficient. We have the knowledge to do that today. We have the ability to do that today. It's not expensive, doesn't take a lot of time, but we need to do it. Thanks.